So good evening, good morning, and good day, ladies and gentlemen. I will try to guide you through the idea of how we want to do this project with you. For it to succeed, of course, we need a lot of your participation and engagement, also enthusiasm. So I hope I can motivate you enough. How we structured the project is we try to make it engaging as well as for the total juniors, new guys, as well as for the veterans. So therefore, we kind of decided on 3 levels or 3 steps of how to build an IFC file, which is our end goal. We want to build a proper file. And of course, in the process, get your feedback on the schema, on the specification, and build that into our documentation, of course, and into usages and templates. For this purpose, we will focus a lot on existing usages, but we will also build new usages, new templates. We will provide them to you and hope that we get some feedback on how to actually build this stuff together. This is my entry point here, and I hope it will be yours also to our project. We have a couple of repositories here, starting with IFC specification, which is probably the most important one currently, where our specification is stored with all the entities, the types, usages, templates. And from this repository, our documentation is generated. It is set up in a CI/CD manner. So whenever we merge a pull request that has a schema change in it, a new schema will be available in the actions tab over here. So you can always filter the changes with these runs that were named appropriately. So for example, a schema generation takes place only when we mess with the schema or merge a change from the schema. This takes about 1 to 2 minutes, and you have a new schema ready for download. You just click on the latest run, you go to the artifacts, and you download the schema. The same thing happens whenever we change properties and quantities. We can also generate the documentation directly from this one, and that takes me to our second repository, which is the documentation. This is the documentation tunnel repository where we deploy the documentation, and there you have a link provided that you can use at your leisure to access the latest documentation. This documentation will be periodically or according to your requests updated. I will update it over the weekend since a couple of new pull requests have been merged since I found a couple of issues. And this documentation is then ready for you to review, to comment on, whatever. We have some places where you can also put your issues. So if you go back to our repository, you can place your issues over here, or you can place your issues in IFC specification. It doesn't really matter. We will try to organize this so that the issues get sorted into the right place. So back to our documentation. Like I said, we will build the file in 3 steps. The first step is sort of a warm-up step where we will be maybe teasing the veterans a bit, but also trying to warm them up. And for the juniors, this will be an important step in how to actually build an IFC file. I really encourage all of the veterans, please join this step. You might learn something. Why am I saying that? From the simple reason that most of the concepts that we'll be dealing with here, I haven't found yet in a single IFC4 file. So it might be very good for you to join. And now we're already at IFC 4.4. All right, so I hope everyone already knows that an IFC file has one IFC project entity, and everything in an IFC file has to be attached to this IFC project file one way or another. There are several different concepts on how to do that. You have them listed in the sections definitions applying to general usage. And if we go in here, these are the concepts that we will be starting with. We will deal with project representation context, which gives us local engineering coordinate system from which we can work on. It gives us project global positioning, so we have some georeferencing in our file. It gives us classification information, document information, library information. Why is this important? Because when you are importing IFC, or let's say standardized IFC properties into your application, you might want to fall back on this concept template, but we will explain this further. So another one is project declaration. Anything that's not an actual physical object is typically declared. So things like libraries, types, actors, controls, processes, and so on. Those are typically declared. Groups, for example. Then comes our project structure, which is a spatial decomposition or a linear structure, which will be also provided as a template. Looking forward to feedback on that. And we also set the representation context here. So this will be the first level. We call it project setup. Why? Because we will be limiting the concepts that we set up here, like project units and the ones I just explained, and stopping there. So we will have a baseline boilerplate set that you can use practically for any IFC file that you will be building in the future. The second level is the project structure phase. The project structure phase will be focusing on the step where, going from an IFC project, we start building the file. Meaning that, for example, in spatial decomposition, we will have our IFC project, and then we will start building the spatial elements, like IFC site, like building, like tunnel, and so on. We will also be dealing in the second phase with project global positioning. So we will try to teach you here how to properly georeference, how to georeference and to local engineering coordinates, how to georeference to mapped coordinates, how to georeference to geographic coordinates. We hope to get a lot of feedback from you here, because these are very new concepts. We have tried to group them together in a logical way, but this will serve as a basis for exchanging infrastructure files. The same thing we will do with project declarations, with library information. Depending on what you apply for, that's what we will be dealing with. So let's say another example, project classification information. In the first phase, we will be building up to this point. So we will attach a classification. In the second one, we will start building the nodes after the first level, pretty much. In the third and final phase, we will be focusing on the leaf nodes. So the actual final nodes that contain information and are instantiated with a proper reference in IFC. So rooted objects that carry geometry, that carry placement, that carry properties, classifications, are grouped, are contained, and so on. That's the final phase, meaning that if we go to our spatial decomposition, I'm very much relying on building concepts here, so bear with me. Why is that? Because other templates have to still be developed, and this is our task here. And that's why I also said 90% of the content will be existing content that we will be reusing. So we go to spatial element. The spatial element now again has a set of templates assigned to it. We go to general usage, definitions applying to general usage again, and we see that spatial element can have other templates assigned, like interference, like footprint, geometry, and so on. So in this, I will just go to its subtypes. Let's go to one of our subtypes that we are mostly interested here. So I'm going to go to something like facility and tunnel. In this phase, we will go to IFC tunnel. IFC tunnel currently has no templates assigned, but we can also look at our inheritance tree, and we can see that already facility, from which tunnel inherits, brings many templates and many structures that can be used. And one of them, very important one, of course, to actually get to our leaf nodes, is spatial container. Spatial container allows us to contain elements, so IFC element, positioning element, and so on, in spatial structure elements. So let's go to IFC element, and this is our final leaf node, which is also where we will be dealing the most with actual domain concepts. Here we will be attaching geometry, we will be attaching placement. Okay, placement we will already have to deal with before in the second phase, in project structuring phase. But here we will be attaching properties that are domain specific. We will be attaching classifications. We will be attaching geometries like voxels, for example, and also dealing with dataset references and the requirements that came from our stakeholders. So this is the final phase, phase 3, which will be the longest. It will also be the one that's branched the most out of all the phases. So here you will be able to apply to 2 different sets of implementations. We hope we can cover with that most of your wishes and your desires. We are limited with time and resources, of course, but in this final phase, the idea is to provide enough information so that you will be able to build a file up to the end. And with this, I would thank you, and I will also give the word to Stefan, who will be providing a lot more details on the actual planning and the actual CI/CD on how we will be checking files and receiving files. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Sergey. Thanks, Sergey. Thanks to you, we are back on track as far as clock is concerned. So very good. And I think that maybe once Stefan has covered that one part, on the overall tooling and platform, we can maybe take questions there on these 2 parts that you've both have covered. Stefan, floor is yours.
Thank you, Michel. Thank you, Sergey, also for an awesome introduction. As you've already, so hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Stefan Jaud, my name, and greetings from Munich. As Sergey has already presented quite well with the, now let me just turn on the camera as well. Yeah, should also see my face now. As Sergey has presented quite well on the GitHub, this will be the base of our tooling. This will be the base of our, let's say, asynchronous communication between you, the participants, and us, the project team. And we've already been quite active today on this platform. So if you're going to look through the history, there have been quite some commits that have happened in the past few hours. And let me show you through what this is all about. So this Building Smart Infra Room IFC tunnel deployment repository is the main repository of the project, and I'm going to share the link in the chat for you all, and you're most welcome to explore, to read through. We have provided some documentation already. We're also going to provide links to all the reference documents that previous speakers have mentioned. And if you look here, well, basically the main README just states what our mission is and how to get in contact with us. So if you have a question that you don't know how to whom to address or anything, please do shoot us an email. Both Andre and Michelle will receive the email and we will see to it to answer it quickly. If you have any, let's say, inquiries regarding this GitHub repository or the deployment process, development process in itself, you can also open an issue within this repository and we'll get back to you. Now, what also is provided here is an about README where you can read about the goal, target audience, the background of everything. So basically just a short summary of what Michelle and Andre have been describing previously, and also what Sergey has said about these 3 levels that we will be pursuing in the next few months. Now, if we try to take those 3 levels and see how those 3 levels are, let's say, time-wise planned, there is a project plan that I'm going to open now that's also in this repository. So it's a PDF plan that we're going to be updating from day to day. And I think also Michel had a previous version of it in his slides, so he'll need to update those. But right now, today, we're commencing with our first phase, so project setup. There are a few of the concept as described here that also Sergey has mentioned, mostly about the project. And we have split them into 3 sprints in this first in this first phase. Then in the second phase, there are going to be again 3 sprints that are going to more focus on this project structure part. And then in the last 3rd sprint that will commence somewhere around start of June and will go over the whole of summer in the Northern Hemisphere. We're going to go over many concepts in parallel regarding these leaf nodes. This is, of course, we're very agile, so it may change as we go forward. However, we are intending to have finished this first phase so that in Rome we'll have some great results as a community. Andre, would you like to say anything more about the project plan? I think we said it. Perhaps you will.
Actually, no, there's not much to add. Maybe there's one thing, which is that we can also always discuss the project plan. So if you have the feeling it's going too fast, or on the other side, if you have the feeling it's not going fast enough, then please come forward and we discuss it with the entire team, and then we can modify our schedule. That's always possible. So it's not set in stone.
Thank you very much. Very good remark, of course. Yes. So that's the project plan. Then what we have agreed upon, as Michel has also said, we are offering a half an hour, so twice a day, half an hour, a meeting. If you have any questions and would like to discuss them with us as a project team, we will meet every Thursday and every Thursday at 8 a.m. and every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central European time, so as to also accommodate for all the time zones and join the meeting that suits you better in your working day, and you can post questions there. However, we also encourage you to just open an issue and we're gonna get to you asynchronously. So there's no need to wait for the Thursday. If you have a question on Monday, just shoot us a question and we'll reply. As of the participation, I think it is clear that participation is free of charge for all of you. We are happy if you're going to commit with us and go with us the whole journey through the next few months. So much about the about README. There is another README, which is the frequently asked questions. Of course, the project has just started, but we already have frequently asked questions. Again, for example, if you ask yourself, well, where I can find the latest IFC schema, it's just here. There's a link. You have the schema here. It's basically within this IFC documentation tunnel repository that Sergey has just shown before. Then again, the latest IFC documentation, Sergey has shown us that. The link is here. You can navigate through it. Of course, as Sergey said, this page will be updated during the course of program following the updates from the repository he has shown. The changelog again, and then we come to perhaps the question, well, you know, the CI/CD that I'll just show soon. There, if your check is failing, you can find the report here in the summary. We will showcase this, Lars and myself, in the next few minutes. If you need the link to the technical call, so this Thursday calls, if you've lost the link or you don't find it, please contact us through this email, and we'll share the link with you. And of course, if you have a question that's not on the list, well, as said, open the issue or just join us for these technical calls. Right, let's navigate now to the sprints. There is a sprint directory in the repository where we've tried to already describe the first 6 sprints. And as we will commence with the sprint number 1.1, I'll showcase how the description goes already on this sprint that will commence today. So first, there's a short description of what we're going to do. Then there's a list of prerequisites. The first sprint, of course, does not require you to have done anything till now. We have structured the project so that also the complete beginners that have not yet produced an IFC file in their life can join us and can go with us. However, the learning curve is going to be steep, so be aware. We are kickoff. Our kickoff is today. Our, let's say, submission that we envision is, I think that's in 2 weeks' time on Monday, and we're going to close it on the Thursday. So we have a week and a half to try and produce a valid file, submit it with us, and we still have then 3 days to see if we can help you if you have any difficulties. Now, what's the sprint encompass? There's a list of usages by every sprint, and here we've tried to be very, very explicit as to what we are searching for in the file that you will submit. And I think this is best if I present in detail a bit later. However, you can see the usages, you can see the duration, you can see the prerequisites in each of these markdown documents in the sprint directory. What else can you see in on the repository? Well, this is also where you're going to be active. There is a files directory where you're invited to make your own directory, name it after your company, name it after your product, however you wish, just so that we can at least somehow assign or see who the file comes from if we're going to have any questions. So for example, this file comes from a project team that was committed 2 hours ago, so pretty fresh. And there's an example file for sprint 1.1 as to what we think or what a possible correct solution or a possible correct file would be. I just got a notification there are people in the lobby. Michelle, perhaps you see it as well. So there's an example file of IFC. It's a short one. It has like 50 lines so that you can also read through it as a developer. Probably this will not be something that you haven't seen yet. And as said, this is where we expect you to have your own directory, upload your own file, and see how it goes. So much for the repository structure. What this repository also comes from is an automatic checking in the background. As you can see here, we have, this is all today when where we've been testing that everything goes. And I think there's, the pull request for this minimalist example for sprint 1.1, you can see here, this is how an action, a result of the action will look like. And this gets this runs every time you open a pull request, every time you're going to be submitting a file, this will be run through your files. So it's going to first tell you which files have been checked. So you can submit multiple IFC files if you wish to. And then you get a markdown document basically telling you what has been checked, what has passed. For example, this file, the project units are, if they are present, yes, they are present. Length and angle units are present. Project declaration, program presentation context. These are the usages that are expected in sprint 1.1, sorry. And of course, at the end, well, we couldn't find any mistakes, which, just a word of caution, doesn't mean that your file is completely correct. It's just those things that we have tested are correct. Right, and if we look at, for example, a run that did not succeed as intended, I believe, this is where, for example, the submitted IFC files have mistakes, review the reports. And here you can see, for example, well, length and angle unit present, the following instances did not pass this check. Right. Perhaps by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the pull request and forking technology of GitHub? It's perhaps something that we should check if there is a need for a specialized, perhaps, session to introduce this. So show of hands, everybody. That's also a good check if you are still listening, if you're still with us, who is familiar with the GitHub pull request forking technology. I see quite a lot of hands. Quite a lot that haven't raised their hands. So perhaps this is something that we can discuss then in the questions in the questions round. Should we have perhaps a specialized introduction to also GitHub and how to do this? So thank you all for raising your hands. You can lower them again. Right. So much from my side, I believe. This was what we've planned for, I think, agenda point number 3. Michel, back to you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Maybe just one additional comment on the 3 milestones for every sprint. So you've understood we have a kickoff, we have a submission date, and we have a closure date. The submission isn't a meeting per se. It's just a deadline for you submitting the files that you are producing. The kickoff and the closure will always take place on Thursday, 6 p.m. meeting, which means that the support calls, as we call them, 8 a.m., 6 p.m. Every Thursday. From time to time, the 6 p.m. session Thursday will be actually a kickoff or a closure. Actually, I should say it will be a closure and a kickoff. Closure of the sprint N-1 and kickoff of the sprint N. I hope this is clear. Submission is not a meeting. This is just a deadline for you to provide the files.
Thank you, Michel. Yeah, there's also a note from Jonas Weil in the chat that perhaps there are some domain experts also with us on this call, so that's why perhaps some hands weren't raised. Yeah, thank you, Jonas, for the comment.
Yes, indeed.
Good to know.
We can take some questions though at this stage after Sergey and your presentation, Stefan. If if anyone, please shoot.
So I'll be stepping in for Sergey. I think he needed to catch his ride. So any questions regarding the, let's say, overall project plan?
Please, Jan,
project.
Go ahead.
Oh, Jan, of course.
Just a question. Was it so that the validation was automatically performed when you do a pull request for an IFC file that you have produced?
Correct. Yes, it runs automatically. You just open a pull request. Lars and myself are going to showcase this after we finish the round of questions. So we're going to make a dry run or like a live run of how to do that.
Great. Thanks.
Another question. Okay. Stefan, your presentation was excellent. Obviously, no question raised.
Of course, either it was so complex or it was so obvious that no.
Is that you or is that I forgot whether this is you, Lars, or Andre, who covers the way we intend to drive those technical support calls?
I thought it would be Stefan indeed.
Okay.
I can take over. Yeah. So
please.
As said, every Thursday, 8 a.m., 6 p.m. And so every 2 weeks, the 6 p.m. meeting will be extended as a also sprint closures, sprint kickoff. But those half-an-hour meetings are basically intended as an open mic. You come in, there's going to be one of us from the technical team there to help you if you have any questions regarding the concept templates or regarding the usages that we are currently dealing with. It is, of course, possible also in the later sprints to ask about usages that have already been covered. Perhaps you just couldn't make it in the first 2 weeks, but you want to catch up, and it's really intended for you to come forward, tell us like, this documentation is very unclear to me. This is something that we are expecting to meet, or you can maybe say, this is totally bollocks to implement. We perhaps need to go back to the drawing board. Hopefully this doesn't happen, but of course, every feedback is welcome. So half an hour of really going through the usages, going through what's happening, and basically giving you a helping hand if you want to state your question orally before you post a question on GitHub. This is how the half-hour meetings will go. As said, it's going to be one of us present, perhaps two of them. Yes, as Peter says, a coffee machine meeting here on the floor, discussing a few ideas, discussing how to address and how to progress in the things. So, and as intended, in the Monday before the sprint closure, it is intended that everyone submits a file so that we still have 3 days to, pinpoint if there are some mistakes, to pinpoint if there's some stuff that is not wrong, or perhaps also our checking procedure will crash. Hopefully not, but it may happen as well. So that we'll still have some time to prepare for the kickoff on Thursday. And I would really be grateful if we see a lot of files submitted even before that deadline.
And maybe to expand upon this a bit, for those software developers or those software solutions that do support IFC 4.0, 4.1, 4.3 already, then of course, this is already part of your commercial solution. So just just proofing a standard file that your solution produces is of course good enough for those those early initial concepts that we want everybody to understand. So that should be an easy one for you.
Exactly, and hopefully there's going to be no errors found in such files. Otherwise, we'll need to rethink the certification program as well. But let's not go there. Also, something that perhaps I didn't mention that clearly before. So when I said that you're expected to upload a file, it is also expected that you progressively improve that one file. You don't need to submit a new file for every sprint. You can just resubmit the same file with new content, with newer content, and so build up that one file. That, I mean, of course, you're allowed to have multiple files, perhaps of multiple different projects, multiple different dimensions or complexities. However, it is expected of you to, let's say, improve on one file as we go forward through the project.
Stefan, do the participants need to create their own quote branch on GitHub for?
So it is expected of you to create your own fork. That is correct, and with the branches as you please, because it's your fork, you can do whatever you want. Of course, we just expect you to pull request the changes that you're happy with into the main repository, so that also the action will run. Although I think if you open a pull request within your own fork, the action should run as well. So if you want to double check internally first on your fork, you can do that as well. It is possible. You just need to set things up correctly. It's a bit tricky with GitHub, but if you open a pull request with our main repository, with the Building Smart Infra Room IFC tunnel deployment repository, the check will run and you'll get your results as expected.
Is that maybe something that you intend to cover as part of the Sprint 1.1 kickoff?
We're going to showcase that, yes.
Okay. Then I don't know, since we are almost on time to start with this one,
Yes.
and unless Andre, you have other additional comments you'd like to add?
No, not in the moment.
Pat McLaren has a question. Pat?
Yeah, hi guys. Just
Right.
when we did the 4.3 software deployment, there was these exchange scenarios kind of groups that were brought together to focus on different use cases and data exchange in those use cases. So you might have someone that was producing a file and then someone else was going to consume that file, another software vendor or participant. Is that going to happen later in the sprints after we get through these kind of key structural front end parts of this project? How's that piece of it going to work?
Great,
yes, I mean
great question, Pat. This is you're completely correct. Yeah, we are not intending to do this pairing up as it was done in the deployment of 4.3. However, for those that are, let's say, primarily interested in importing the files, that's why we are planning to produce example files as a project team as well, so that the importing software vendors will have something to play around with. However, we are also inviting importing software vendors, if to take files from other participants that have exported and give feedback or produce, like, perhaps it's something that the importing software does not understand correctly, or it's an exporting error or something. It's always this principle of 4 eyes at least. We're trying to produce we as a project team to be the 5th and the 6th eye, so to say, and try to be the to be an independent judge in such occasions. But if you're mostly interested in importing, of course, you're most welcome to import all the files that are there.
Actually, we in our case, we're primarily a producer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
However, yeah, the importers, of course, more than welcome to try.
We're keen to have others consume what we create. Yeah.
One of the first importers is the checking procedure. If that one fails, it's obvious. But it could be that it's on us as well. So it could be that we are in the wrong.
So then, so kind of a follow-on question from that then is data sets. Then as software vendors, we would have our own. The expectation is then that we have our own sample data sets for these things that we then produce, and there's not really an objective to blend those into a kind of a single project or something by that definition, because each software vendor's data sets will be different projects.
Perhaps Andre or Lars, you can answer that one on the data, because I think there is some data already within the project. That's also
yes, the main teams have started to try to identify data sets that would be quote unquote free of rights, so that we can play with it, and we have already some stuff available on the geodetics side of things. We need to arrange it so that it can be accessed properly. But yes, definitely that's the idea, that we have a coherent, I'd say, or consistent data sets that is reflecting what is to be exchanged in a real world project.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. We have 2 questions, Stefan, maybe last one being on are we going to be providing visualization tools for IFC 4.4 files?
I'm currently not aware if any visualization tool already supports 4.4. We as a project team are not really planning to do anything like this, because there isn't that much new geometry that has been introduced through the tunnel project as presented previously by Andre. So I would assume if one reads such a file into an existing viewer, oh yeah, voxels, of course. The voxels is a great one. But the voxels are on the project plan. So if you look through the project plan, I think voxels come somewhere in May on the menu. And Peter, I believe this is Peter Boomsma, probably, right?
Yes.
Peter Boomsma says that his viewer should work. Thank you, Peter. If you provide the link in the description, that's I think a good thing to perhaps also share with the participants.
Nigel has had some questions around alignment. Are we extending to support multiple vertical profiles per alignment? You correct me if I'm wrong, Andre, but we didn't touch per se the bricks that were not quote directly related to concepts for tunneling, besides what you explained earlier on. So that I'd say we didn't touch, correct?
We didn't touch it, but I had the impression that multiple vertical profiles should be possible, but let's check back with Sergey. This is something we have to clarify.
I think alignment is also part of the sprint 2.1. If you, Nigel, want to mark that down in the calendar to definitely be present at the kickoff and ask the same question. And Jan Erik says extrusion with guiding curves is important to exchange between software for tunneling, drilling jumbos. Right. Oh, thank you, Nigel.
There was one question about visualization tools for viewing IFC 4.4. Well, that's an issue, of course, because well, IFC 4.4 does not yet exist. We are only now deploying it. So, well, there's actually no such tool available now, but we hope that also tool providers are joining us in the deployment project, and then they should be very soon be able to view IFC 4.4.
Maybe you missed it, but Peter mentioned earlier that his viewers should be supporting it.
Ah, sorry. Yeah, then
Peter Bonsma already linked in. He apparently supports everything. Thank you, Peter.
We should be supporting it already, and I think it should work. Of course, enough now, but it should work. Of course, not for the foxholes, but for the other things, it should work.
Yeah, fine, great.
That's
and
great
when we
news
get to the
bringing.
voxels, Peter, you're going to be implementing them, right? You're going to be with us.
Of course. I'm looking forward for example.
Excellent.
Very good. Stefan, should we officially kick off the sprint 1.1 and so we take it from there?
Exactly.
Including what Andre was saying as far as suggestions as to run those meetings. We just really want to make sure that we provide you with the technical information you need to move forward with implementing these.
Correct. I will take over the screen for a second and really try to explain the contents of the sprint number 1.1. So previously I've explained the content of such a file. However, now let's focus really on these usages. So this sprint encompasses the following usages. One of them is project unit assignment. We look it through. This is basically that a context. So an IFC project has through unit assignments different units assigned to the project. So default units for the project. For example, you could have SI units or conversion units, derived units, whatever your heart desires. And what we are expecting you to submit is that your unit assignment will have at least 2 units, and that of those at least 2 units, there's going to be a length unit and a plane angle unit defined. Regardless if you're defining meters, feet, survey feet, bananas, whatever is a length, or a plane angle unit, degrees, radians, gradients, whatever you want, but you need to have it defined. Then the second usage is project representation context, which basically sets the context for any geometry in the IFC file. Again, to the IFC project, you should attach a geometric representation context. And what we are going to be checking is that you have either a model that's a 3D context or a plan that's a 2D context defined. You can see also project representation context in table 1 in this IFC project usages link. If I jump over to the IFC project usages, there is somewhere table 11 here. It says that you should at least have a model that's a 3D or a plan that's a 2D context assigned. Furthermore, the last one is project declaration. which is a very, very simple one. It says that the project should declare some stuff. It's a very simple one. And if we look through what the documentation says, well, the project declaration says you should declare at least one of these. So it should be at least a project library, project set templates. You should declare type objects, actors, controls, groups, processes, or resources. If you look through here, it is going to be used later on in the later sprints, right? So here's an example for a spatial and work plan structure that is being declared in a work plan element. So what we're going to test again, that at least one of these is declared in your IFC file. If we look into the example file provided by the project team, this is exactly what you will find within it. So there's a IFC unit assignment that defines a length unit. It also defines an area and a volume unit. These don't make the file invalid, but it also defines a plane angle unit. It defines 2, but it only includes 1 in the unit assignment. And the one is a conversion-based unit, which is in degrees. It also defines, for example, a mass unit, a time unit, but more content does not invalidate the file. Then it defines a geometric representation context. That's a model in 3D. And then it also declares an actor, which is a person, which is myself being a consultant here, as an example. And this example file, as shown, passes the checks. Right, now over to Lars, who's going to submit his own file, and we're going to do the switcheroos as he's going to submit a file, I'm going to review the file, and we're going to see how this runs in the next weeks and months to come.
Okay. Yeah. What I did, just, I mean, Andre or Stefan mentioned this. I've created my own fork here, as you see, and I've actually cloned that fork, so I have the stuff on my local computer, and I use GitHub Desktop here. So what I do now is maybe create a new branch. We can call it Lars Wik Sprint 1.1 maybe. And then I, of course, will have to create a file, and I like a TV chef done so, and hopefully it should pop up here. Yeah, and maybe you recognize the file. I've been a little bit lazy, so I've used actually the file from Stefan, but there is an error in here. So I will commit this and publish it and create a pull request. And when creating the pull request, we actually have a template here. So I should perhaps fill something in here describing the file. Sample file for Sprint 1.1. And I cover project unit assignment and project representation context, and also project declaration. And I can fill in something miscellaneous down here, but I have nothing. So let's just create this pull request. And perhaps I should also then add Stefan as a reviewer. And you see that already this automatic checking has started down here. So we'll have to wait for a little bit. Maybe we should have some pause music or something.
Elevator music, right? That would be a good one. In the meantime, perhaps also if you're unsure as to who to assign as a reviewer, anybody from the project team will do. We're going to reassign ourselves as we see fit. So no worries. At least tag one of us so that we know that you've opened a pull request. However, there's a lot of, let's say, asynchronous communications that is needed here. So no need to shoot us an email. We will be notified of your activities.
The exception is me. Do not contact me for that kind of review. I won't be able to do it.
Although we did show you, Michelle, how to do it. So, perhaps this is something new. You can practice.
I won't practice on the production of others that have spent time preparing this.
So now it's running the final step anyway. Oh, it failed. So I can check here, and as Stefan showed you, we have a summary. And you see that project units present, project declaration present, project representation context present, but then length and angle unit present, the following instances are failing. So this project is failing somehow. But maybe, I don't know, if you want to help me with the review, Stefan.
Yeah, well, if you look through the documentation of the sprint, right, this check requires you to have a length and a plane angle unit defined. Yeah. So let's perhaps look at the file itself. I would imagine you either have a length unit missing or a angle unit missing. And I believe, if I saw correctly previously, you've deleted both.
So we actually are missing the angle unit, right? So yeah, what do I do? Maybe I update this file then.
Of course, you go back into your code base, you click export once again, you wait for the nightly build. Oh, that was fast.
Yeah, so I updated the file, and well, I just commit it again in the same branch, push it. And we can go back here, take a look at my pull request again, and the checks have restarted.
I believe this is important for those that have not yet experienced GitHub, that first handy. So you just push your new changes and the checks are restarted for you. No need to open a new pull request. Just write onwards, so to say, on this one pull request, and it's going to be incrementally changed and also incrementally checked. Perhaps also something to notice in between, if you have a failing check on the first two steps, then it's not necessarily your IFC file that's wrong. Then it may be that our checking procedure has failed, which is also possible. And if something like this happens, we'll see to it right away. It may happen with the more, let's say, complex checks that are coming in the sprints to come. Perhaps also a good question now to all the participants. Does anybody wish to have a GitHub introduction or something like that for you to get up to speed if you're not used to this tool?
So at least those problems were fixed, and yeah. So maybe now the reviewer also can check before merging this into the main branch of the repository.
So I'm going to take over the screen once again. Thank you, Lars. So I can see Lars's pull request here listed. I would expect by the end by the end of sprint number 1, we're going to have approximately 20 to 30. If I count all the participants in that they're going to submit their files. And what I can then, of course, do, I've been requested to review. I see, well, you know, that there's a very good point. There's a green tick here, which means the file at least passes the continuous integration, continuous development check. However, I can also look through it and I see that Lars has changed the name, which is nice. He also did some manual text editing, but I also can see that he provided the length unit and a play angle unit. I noticed the difference, for example, because I know that, you know, the previous file was written by me, that he has only radians here and not the degrees. However, it still passes because, of course, we are requiring a plane angle unit, but doesn't matter which. So again, the file is valid in itself. And also Lars Wikström here is a consultant, so he changed everything that is important what file content goes, because of course the comments can be discarded. I'm very happy with what I see, and I review the changes, approve them. Looks fine to me. I submit my review. With that, he gets a green tick, and we will merge this pull request, saying Lars did a very good job, and we have yet another example for you to look through. Thank you, Lars. And back to you, Michelle, I believe.
Talking about reviewers, is that a recommendation to pick up 1 or 2 reviewers? Would you suggest rather 1 or 2?
I think at least 1, and we will reassign them among ourselves in the project team as the time schedule goes on our project team meetings and see how to go around with them. So assign at least 1, and we will see that we review them. But of course, don't expect us to review as long as you don't have a green tick next to the last commit there.
Okay. And I think you were saying the other day that the idea is that we go a group of concepts by group of concepts, and then we expand upon what has been validated, and then we move next step, and then we concentrate on these, and so on and so on. So if someone has already a like quote a big IFC file to submit, is that a good idea to simplify it so that it matches the 3 concepts in questions, or do we leave it as big as it is and then we see what happens?
It doesn't matter here. So if the file has, let's say, currently as we only check the 3 concepts, the 3 usages, even if the file is big, 99% of it will be ignored by the check, so to say. So okay. I can't say anything about the correctness of the rest. However, there's no need to strip it down.
Okay.
Manually.
It will basically
if you have something implemented in your software already and you just click export and there comes a lot of stuff, it doesn't matter. We're going to check what we're going to check, and we're going to check incrementally though. So each sprint we're going to add to the existing checks.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe we should add something about where to place the file. Maybe this was a little bit too fast for the audience. So it is in files, project team. And then in this case, it was Lars Wick -test.ifc. I don't know if you have naming conventions, Stefan.
We haven't considered that. We haven't thought about it. I also don't think it's necessary. So I would just recommend every software vendor or every user that wants to participate, of course, to just create their own folder within the files, just so that we can know who it comes from. And also to, it's easier for us to find the person in question and ask questions. However, we will also see who opens the pull request. So, you know, we will have some sort of traceability who it was that has submitted the file. So within the files, the
Please don't
project team,
change the files of the others. That might be important as well.
yeah, that is correct. Don't necessarily change the files of others, or don't delete them and commit that. That would also be. But then again, it's on us as reviewers to also check that. So
maybe Stefan, show where the participants would need to create their own directory to post these files.
In files
yes.
project team, right?
I can, of course, let's.
The project team is us. Yeah,
no,
okay.
The project team is us. So
Okay,
there
sorry.
you have the example files.
So the example files to pick up from or to copy paste from, but then you would expect participants to create their own directories, correct?
Currently, I am within my own clone on my Explorer. So I'm within the clone and files folder as shown. And this project team currently on my own clones still has just one file because I haven't pulled yet from the internet. But within these files, I would expect, for example, if, let's say, Tomb Open Infra Platform will submit a file, that there's going to be, let's say, a folder called Tomb Open Infra Platform here, and then files within that directory. For example, this is now a software name, but you can also choose, of course, your company name, whatever is easier for you. You can also, if you wish to, have a subfolder structure. There's nothing that stops you from there, but at least stay within your directory then.
Exactly. Yeah.
So project team is bSI project team.
bSI is us, yes.
Yes, us. Okay.
I can also rename that just after this meeting, so it's going to be bSI project team, and
okay.
Perhaps it's clearer. Yes.
Maybe we should just check if anyone would like to make a suggestion or comment, ask a question already.
So also, as I've seen 4 answers to my previous question, if
yes.
A separate, let's say, sort of tutorial is needed on the GitHub, I would encourage you all to just join us next Thursday on the support call. And there is also a lot of good documentation online. So I would not start doing a tutorial video on how to do Git, because there are plentiful of videos online that explain it much better than myself. So there is really a lot of, let's say, support content for GitHub and how to set stuff up. But if you just don't manage, join us on Thursday, as I assume there's not going to be a lot of questions regarding the concepts yet, so we can go through that on that occasion. Would that be efficient for you?
Who do we contact to get access to this repository, or do we already have access?
It's public. It's public. You should see it.
Okay,
you should have access to it. You can fork it. You can clone it. I mean, you probably can't clone it, but or you can clone it but can't push to it. There should be some restrictions who can write directly to the repository, but you can fork it, and it's out there. So let me post the link once again, and you can double check that you have that you can access it. Of course, I believe it's not necessary, but still to mention, it is a public repository, so be wary of language, be wary of what you post. Everything that you say stays online, so But I believe we're past that now with 3 years of home office and internet.
And so, Stefan, if I'm brand new to IFC, I have a solution. I can start by simply copy pasting the code that you've provided as example files and integrate this into my my software, compile and produce this limited IFC file, and I'm good.
There's a bit more to that question. That is how you've just now stated it. But yes, of course, if you are an exporting software, I mean, there is no code there. First of all, there is just an example file there that you can take as a guiding figure. And how to write an IFC file? There are multiple libraries out there, commercial and free, that one can use. We are also, so Sergey and myself are trying to also provide a library that the project participants can use, but we need to first merge some of the 4.4 pull requests so that it's finalized. So we will be providing you also with a library if you wish to. But there are also plentiful of others out there that you can use to read and or write IFC files. But then again, you need to then program and map it to your internal model, of course, at some point, because everybody has their own. But yeah, just start coding and
are we going to be providing files that would contain errors intentionally, so that those who only concentrate on reading can check whether their reader effectively considers that the file is properly structured or that it is not structured properly?
We did not plan to produce also failure files, because we believe that all the files out there should be correct per se, right? That's the point of an ISO standard, and that's, I think, that going in that direction, that would more be a certification part of coin, which is, you know, giving the reader really a bad file and seeing if the reader, if it does anything or if it correctly fails, which I don't know if it's a requirement on the reader though. So, philosophical discussion we can have.
Yeah, maybe the ones who concentrate on reading could advise as to what would make sense they have available to guarantee this globally this consistency in the write read chain. Yep, Andre, you're right.
I think there was another question in between. I heard a voice.
Oh, I was just making a comment that you say, well, there's a lot of libraries out there. Of course, there's no libraries out there that do 4.4. So if you want to generate a 4.4 file, I'm assuming we're going to have to do some, I don't know, flying by the seat of our pants kind of coding to do that work correctly, right? So
can use the IFC engine,
for example. Yeah, you can also use
yeah, but that's like
our engine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but, exactly. If that was part of our application, then I could do that. Yeah. But of course, we are relying on all the libraries, etc., etc. Yeah.
Ron, as an asterisk next to it, the checker that is currently running as the check on the GitHub action is currently set in that way that you can have any schema name in there and it's going to run. So you can also upload a 4.3 file. It's still going to check that your file has the correct content, and at some point you can interchange the schema, because the concept that would work. It will work. The checker will work also if you say that it's schema 2x3.
Then that would work for all the concepts that are supported by 4.3.
Yes, no. So exactly. That's the asterisk. So when we get to the tunneling concepts,
yeah, right,
will have to be 4.4. But current concepts in the sprint 1.1, and I also believe in 1.2, not sure. I'll have to check. There are still like general concepts that are there for quite some time already.
I think we start to introduce some tunneling stuff.
I think the data set declaration might be a new thing in sprint 1 anyway.
So in next sprint you're gonna have to be able to write 4.4. But we can of course set the checking procedure so that, you know, say if you write 4.3, we're just gonna squeeze our eyes and say, yeah, it's fine.
Was that a useful session? Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Pedro.
I think it was also
Dimitri,
Franz. I didn't read it fast enough. Franz, yeah. So, of course, I expect you all to be there on one of the Thursdays.
And again, we can adjust a bit the format, the content, and the way you'd like us to drive this together with you. But I think you got the point of what we wanted to do, starting from the ground up and then to progressively, step by step, making sure that everyone understands all the concepts to get to the very tunneling specific nodes, as Sergey was saying. Yeah, we've just registered this. I'll tell you, Henrik. Any other last question before we close the session? Looks like we can go and go for dinner. I think for those of you in the CET time frame, it's time now. Thank you very much for joining us today and showing this interest indeed in this project. And as said, this is a collaborative effort, and we hope we have we definitely have the mindset for it. We have I believe the tools for it as well, and so I'm sure we can rather quickly get what the industry expects from us, and again, in terms of easing the exchanges between those three main disciplines that we have to deal with. This is, I believe, a major step forward for this tunneling industry. We close now, I believe. André, any last word you'd like to add?
No. Just thanks for joining us, and yeah, I look forward to a really productive deployment project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.